Hi, and welcome to Higher Achievement's Summer Social Studies Curriculum Overview. My name is Mike DeMarco. I'm Higher Achievement's Director of Program Quality and Evaluation, and I will be taking you through this PowerPoint today. Okay, so we are going to do an overview of each grade level and talk about some of the social studies curriculum basics. Also touch on overall objectives and skills emphasized by each unit and the projects in each grade level, as well as common challenges and solutions. And then I'll point you to some summer resources on ISIS, which is our internal website for data management as well as for compiling different resources that you can use in your classroom. So the social studies curriculum basics. Our social studies curriculum is a 20-lesson sequence. It's organized by specific subject matter. So 5th grade deals with geography and community mapping. 6th grade, the U.S. Constitution and mock trial. 7th grade, solidarity and model UN. And 8th grade, human rights. The lessons build both on content knowledge and provide multiple opportunities to work with higher achievement social justice themes of voice, justice, solidarity, and freedom. The lessons are cumulative in nature, ultimately build into a final project, which I'll describe later in this presentation. And just so you know, in some cases, this is the first time scholars have worked with social studies content in this way, and so you just have to be prepared for that and prepared to really support our scholars in engaging in topics like this. So here's an overview of the curriculum by grade. As I mentioned, 5th grade will be focused on community mapping. They'll study geography, both local and global. They'll do research on a specific country. As a 5th grade social studies teacher, you need to be prepared to do a community walk with your scholars, as the curriculum calls for that, so that they can study the resources in their community. Scholars will have scaffolded assignments for their final project, which will be, and scholars will identify and find solutions for a community issue. 6th grade, scholars deal with a mock trial. They have a deep examination of the Constitution and Supreme Court decisions. There'll be a mock trial with multiple roles, and there'll be several options for that mock trial. And also, there'll be juvenile justice lessons that scholars will engage in. 7th grade, there's a model United Nations. It'll be an investigation of the United Nations and issues of international importance. There's several options for the model UN topic, which you'll see in your curriculum. There'll be scaffolded research assignments, and it culminates in a model UN. One other thing with the 7th grade curriculum, it actually links well with the 7th grade math curriculum, which deals with math of international relations. So there'll be a lot of collaboration between our 7th grade social studies teacher and our 7th grade math teacher. In 8th grade, our scholars study human rights. It emphasizes the importance of multiple perspectives, investigates several examples of human rights violations, examines the importance of activism, there's scaffolded research assignments, and it culminates in a letter writing campaign. So there are objectives for each grade level. In 5th grade, our scholars will identify and explain maps and mapping choices. They'll complete a country project. They'll assess community needs through the community mapping process. That's why you'll be doing a community walk. And you'll present the community mapping results and make recommendations to the community. In 6th grade, scholars will be comparing and contrasting different forms of government. They'll be identifying and explaining the significance of the U.S. Founding documents. They'll analyze different Supreme Court cases, and they'll complete a mock trial. 7th grade, scholars will identify, explain, and utilize solidarity. That's the higher achievement social justice theme for that grade, for 7th grade. They'll be analyzing different news sources, explaining the purpose and significance of the United Nations, and completing a model UN process. And 8th grade, scholars will analyze and apply the principles established by the Universal Declaration of Independence. They'll analyze methods used by activists. They'll identify the components of conflict, and they'll research and advocate for a human rights issue. Throughout the summer, you'll be building many different skills in your scholars and our scholars. So you'll be building content-based social studies knowledge. You'll build foundational skills, utilizing and creating maps, analyzing primary sources, analyzing news sources, explaining types of conflict, making persuasive verbal and written arguments. There'll be a lot of collaboration with others, with hands-on activities. A lot of our projects will be done in small groups. There'll be small group research projects, a lot of hands-on activities in the social studies curriculum. And ultimately, scholars will complete a cumulative performance-based project at the end of the summer that I am about to outline. So I touched on these already, but just to highlight them, 5th grade will be doing a community asset mapping project that really builds on some of the things that they've been studying throughout the year. 6th grade, there's a mock trial that involves the whole class. And we'll put into action a lot of the principles of government that they've been studying. 7th grade, there'll be Model UN around a particular topic. Scholars will be representing different nations. And 8th grade will be a letter writing campaign around a social justice issue. Implementation challenges. There are a few challenges that consistently come up during the summer for our social studies teachers, and we want to highlight them and focus on them so that you can hopefully avoid them this summer. So there are content-based challenges. So you want to make sure that, as I mentioned before, for a lot of scholars, this will be one of the first times they're engaging with social studies curriculum in this way, really hands-on and research-based. So you want to make sure that you're constantly checking for understanding, dealing with misconceptions as they're studying maybe countries or nations that they're not as familiar with, dealing with those misconceptions both individually and in a large group. Project challenges, making sure that you want to make sure that these projects are as authentic as possible and that you're managing scholars' time. Don't just wait until the last week to ask how scholars are doing on their projects. Set interim deadlines. Check in with them, have something due weekly or daily, and have them make progress, help map out their progress for them to ensure a really strong project at the end of the summer. And lesson pacing. So if you find yourself getting behind in the lessons, you want to make sure that you have time to cover all the topics and give your scholars ample time to work on their projects. So the way to make sure that you're staying on pace is with really strong lesson planning, working with your center directors for classroom management techniques, and having really strong classroom procedures. And if you do find yourself getting behind, utilizing the lesson compression techniques that I'll go through at the end of this presentation to really make sure that you're staying on track and giving scholars as much time as possible to complete high-quality projects at the end of the summer. So you may find some content-based challenges this summer. As I mentioned a couple of times, this may be the first time scholars have encountered this material. So it's important that we ensure that they understand the content they're learning. This means that you should feel comfortable with the material, model your expectations for them, frequently employ checking for understanding techniques, and specifically call out good demonstrations of understanding. Let scholars know that they're demonstrating what they're demonstrating correctly, and explaining why these demonstrations are correct. Take the time to address misconceptions that scholars have, either individually or as a group, and provide frequent and detailed feedback, both written and verbal, to scholars, just so that they can get as much input from you as the teacher into these topics as they can. So as I mentioned, there's 2 challenges that often pop up with our projects. So your curriculum will call for authentic demonstrations of understanding. So in most cases, that means you'll need some kind of audience, whether that can be other scholars or community members. You can work with your center teams to decide that. So you'll need to discuss that early on with your center. Most of the projects are performance-based, and they'll be most effective with an external or volunteer audience that will elevate the seriousness of the project. So talk with your center staff early about how to get volunteers to come in and help out with your projects. Time management is the other big issue for scholars working on these big projects. So communicate early and often with your center staff about how the projects are going and if you need more support. You'll want to provide ongoing feedback to scholars and set daily and interim deadlines for scholars. Don't just wait until the end of the summer and ask, where's your project? You'll want to set deadlines and dates for different aspects of the project to have rough drafts in, to have outlines, that sort of thing, to make sure that scholars are staying on track. As I mentioned, if you find yourself falling behind, you may want to use a lesson compression strategy to get back on track. So lesson compression involves taking 2 or 3 lessons, really 3 is the most, you don't want to do more than 3, and compressing them into 1 lesson. So lesson compression also, with our higher achievement curriculum, can really only be used in the first 4 weeks. After that, the last 2 weeks of lessons really focus on giving scholars time to work on their projects, and you really can't compress that anymore. So if you're finding yourself falling behind early, you'll want to use lesson compression early on in the curriculum to ensure that scholars have enough time at the end of the summer to produce high-quality projects. So if you find yourself falling a little behind, your pacing's a little bit off, you'll want to review lesson objectives, skills emphasized, and overall curriculum goals for the 2 to 3 lessons that you think you might be able to compress into 1, and determine where the lesson objectives overlap. Where there's that overlap, you're going to combine the associated activities and rank any remaining activities according to how well they align with what you're going to be doing in class that day. And then you will implement the activities that are most central to your overall curriculum goals. As I mentioned, there's a lot of resources on ISIS. In addition to having an electronic copy of your curriculum, there'll be resources on techniques for checking for understanding, Bloom's taxonomy, methods for opening and closing a lesson. There's lesson planning forms, forms on verbal and nonverbal cues for behavior management, and much, much more. I really strongly suggest that you check it out before you start teaching and check it out while you're teaching. There's lots of different resources that you may find useful at different times of the year. So the more familiar you are with what's there, the better you'll be able to utilize it. So at Higher Achievement, you'll have a lot of support this summer. You'll have support from your center staff. You'll have support from your fellow teachers. You'll have support from your directors of site operations in each city. You'll also have support from me from the national office. I'm Mike DeMarco. I'm the Director of Program Quality and Evaluation. You can always feel free to email me or call with any questions. My email is mdemarco@higherachievement.org, and my phone number is 202-375-7708. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to follow up, and have a great summer teaching social studies at Higher Achievement.